And for that reason, science policy is becoming more relevant and important. Science policy in Canada facing significant development. First, the understanding of the role of scientific evidence in policy making, and the notion that science should be in significant considerations at all levels, including the cabinet table and the Prime Minister's office. Therefore, the appointment of Chief Science Advisor, Dr. Mona Nimmer, is a significant step in the right direction and should be celebrated. Second, the recommendations of Fundamental Science Review Panel, which have the potential to transform the management of science enterprise in this country into new heights, and have made already significant impact in science policy discourse in our country. Members of the panel are here with us during the conference and have their own session on Friday. And third, a national awareness and endeavor for diversifying science, and in particular in STEM fields, for a more inclusive and equitable science and innovation ecosystem, which is absolutely essential for our country that, according to the latest stats, has 20% immigrant, a new high in recent history. But I must confess that for me, as somebody who has been in this field for almost a decade, and due to the nature of what I do, has a panoramic view of science policy landscape, the biggest progress and development has been in the perception of science policy. 10 years ago, we have been suggested many times that we better change the name of the conference, as science policy is not attractive enough. Science policy was an unknown territory for many. In contrast, today, in Canada, we see the increasing relevant understanding of science policy and its importance that is widely being acknowledged across any sectors. And that, to me, is perhaps the biggest progress that we have had for science policy. It's not in the margin anymore. It is at the center of development. But these very good developments should not distract us from two important facts. And one is that science policy infrastructure in Canada is still in its infancy and needs tremendous support from various organizations of science enterprise. And second, the danger of a sense of complacency, of assuming that these issues are widely known in the wider society. We always have to be mindful of those outside of the circle of the most educated and most scientifically engaged. They don't know necessarily the importance of science in policymaking. Millions of voters who may not know that science is crucial for economic prosperity. We must be able to communicate the answer to the very valid question that how science can help the daily life of humans, how science can help the First Nation children whose life expectancy is much lower than the Canadian average, and the chance of being school dropout or committing suicide is much higher than Canadian average. We have to be able to communicate that challenges of this world are all science-related. Access to sufficient food, clean water, sustainable energy, healthcare, accessibility and sustainability of healthcare. These are all issues for all of us in the planet. And the things are not getting easier, they're getting more complex and even more difficult. By 2050, our population grew to 9 billion. And the challenges can only be met through scientific and engineering discoveries. We need analysis, we need data, and we need the translation of this data into the policymaking. If we are successful in communicating this notion to our fellow citizens, millions of voters, then we have a better chance to succeed. On the other hand, if more people see science as just another ideology or another opinion or some interest group or something that has to do research in the ivory tower without a link to societal issues, then we are more at risk of losing our achievements as a civilized society. With so much tensions and instability around the globe, crisis after crisis turning into extremes, and the era that some refer to post-truth world, We must adhere to democratic values with a belief in human dignity, universality of human rights and freedom, economic prosperity and development for all and not just few, and for that, science must be our navigation tool. We must be seen as the country of reason, the country that takes scientific and traditional knowledge to the heart of policymaking. This can be Canada's moment to demonstrate to the world that along with peacekeeping, we can be the champion of global science by rebuilding the scientific infrastructure in post-conflict countries, by having a strong presence at international scientific institutions, and to lead the internationalization of science and to be the country of science diplomacy. My friends, we have so many important questions and issues to discuss. We cannot move forward unless we get together, have dialogue, listen to different perspectives, and build consensus without having anybody left out of the circle. And that core value is the CSPC mission. Connectivity among sectors, generations, regions, and communities. Our vision is a strong and effective science policy community that helps better policies with input from science that benefits all Canadians. Help us to deliver that. Merci beaucoup, bonne soirée et bonne conférence.